What's up, y'all? It's your man, Stephen Bartle, coming back at you with another edition of Bartle's Breakdown. I'm your host, and I'm pleased to be joined today by my man, Evric Gray of UNLV fame. Evric, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, Steve. You guys doing all right out there?
Hey, we're hanging in there, man. We're not on total shut-in, but we keep getting rumors that it could happen any day. What about, are you in Vegas, Evric?
No, right now I'm in Salt Lake. So I live in Salt Lake now, but we are not on the shutdown yet, but everything is closed. To restaurants, you name it, everything is pretty much closed here.
Yeah, it's kind of bizarre times, man, and I hope that you and yours stay safe and sound, like I'm trying to do mine here. But I wanted to bring you on, Everett, because I played against you. I know your career. I know you as a person, and I think that your contribution to basketball is something that people would be interested in checking out. So let's start from the beginning, man. Like I always ask people this: what was the first time, or how were you exposed to the game of basketball?
Well, growing up, Steve, I was a baseball player first. A lot of people don't know. I got drafted twice in baseball, so baseball was my first love. And I wasn't that tall, Steve. I was short, man. And about around the sixth grade, I started growing a little bit. And you got to realize I got cut every year in junior high. I never made my junior high team.
Wait.
Granted,
come from your basketball team in junior high?
Never made it. But you got to realize it was 12 dudes on the team. 10 of them played Division I basketball. 4 of them played in the NBA. So my last year at Audubon Junior High in LA, the coach cut me again, but he said I can be a manager. And I was like, I'm cool. I don't want to be a manager. So we ended up moving, Steve, from LA. My mom ended up moving out to San Bernardino.
Okay.
My 9th grade year. As soon as I got cut, we actually, for some reason, we moved. So I like basketball, but I played all 3 sports. I really like basketball first. So you got to realize when my 9th grade, in between my 9th and 10th grade year, I went from 5'7" to 6'5" in one summer.
5'7" to 6'5"?
Yeah. I was in the hospital a couple times because my hips and my knees was not feeling right. So it was tough. I didn't play sports that summer, so it was tough. But that was a tough growth spurt, and I started picking up basketball, and I started focusing on basketball more.
So tell me about these guys at your first junior high in LA that you said there were 4 pros on there. Who was on that team?
So we had Chris Mills.
Oh man, Chris can play.
Yeah, then we had John Williams was a little bit old. I think when I was a 6th grader. Remember John Williams?
Oh heck yeah, one of the most talented guys ever played.
Yeah, he was when I was in the 6th, he was in the 9th or something like that.
Okay.
And then we had Higgins, Sean Higgins.
Oh, okay. So Higgins left your junior high school and went to Fairfax?
Yes. So
okay.
Our junior high was loaded. I'm trying to remember the other cat that played, but I can't remember offhand the one kid because I think he's not around anymore, if you know what I mean. But
yeah.
I want to say it was either 3 or 4 on our junior high team. At least 10. I know for a fact 11 of them played Division I basketball. The other one, I think he ended up doing a bid and never went to college. But it was just super competitive on our high school team. Another kid was on that team. His name John Staggers. I think he went back and forth in the league a little bit.
Okay.
He was about 6'8" wing. It was just super competitive. It was no way I was going to make it, but I kept trying, Steve.
I know that's right. So you say your mom moved you guys out to San Bernardino. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. We moved up to San Bernardino, a little small town called Bloomington near Fontana, California. Very small school. We consider a small school at the time. I mean, we had about 3,000 students. But,
okay.
If you know California, I mean, you go 3A, 2A, and it's just with the 2 or the 3, it's basically how many students you got in your school.
Okay. And so did you try to continue to play baseball?
I did all three. I did all three.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you were still having a lot of success on the baseball diamond as well?
Well, I was a very good football player too, Steve. So the football-wise, I played football growing up because my brothers played football. I have a brother that played at UNLV with Randall Cunningham. We'll get to that.
Okay.
And Icky Woods and Suge Knight was on that team. And actually Suge was my brother's roommate in college. Interesting. Anyway, that was a very interesting situation. But I played all three growing up, and I focused on basketball, but I worked all three in high school.
Okay.
And, but mainly I was a basketball player, especially when I went from 5'7" to 6'4", 6'5".
Okay. And so that transition from being in LA to San Bernardino, how was that?
It was different. I mean, inner city LA. I mean, I grew up in Rolling 60 hood by Crenshaw. So when you're moving out, they call it to the country. That's what they used to call it back then. But a lot of people was moving from LA out that way, like Rancho Cucamonga area. Like, Steve, you don't know how many dudes at Etiwanda High School in that Rancho Cucamonga area that moved from the inner city to this area. So my mom decided to move away from LA to get away from some situations. So I think it was a good move, and it's nothing I can do. I got to move with the money, Steve. So
that's right. That's right.
Right. So it was a good move. I think it was a good move for me and our family at that time.
So, okay, so now you're in high school, you're starting to figure out that basketball is going to be the thing that you're going to really focus on.
Right.
Who were the schools that were interested in you?
Basketball-wise or football?
Well, both.
Well, football-wise, let's just go football because they go in that order. Football, I had every offer from Pac-12. I had some SEC schools recruiting me to be a tight end at the time, and then basketball. I mean, pretty much everybody was recruiting me basketball-wise. But my last five was Arizona, Georgetown, Oregon, UNLV, and UTEP. That was my last five. And the UTEP one is everybody's like, why UTEP? My dad was a big fan of Coach Haskins. And you know why? Because
that's right.
Yep. So he said, boy, this is what you're doing. You're going on this visit. You're going on this visit. And it was actually a cool visit because Tim Hardaway was there, Greg Foster, Antonio Davis. And the cool thing about it, it was great players there, but I got to hang out with Nate Archibald because he was the assistant coach there.
Oh,
so
wow.
Wow. Tiny was assistant coach at UTEP at the time. And I hung out with him the whole weekend. It was cool to pick his brain a little bit because he was I hated him because I was a Laker fan, but he was nice. And he was a little guy. And he was, when I first met, I was like, I didn't realize he was this little. But he was a good dude. And I got some good experiences, especially in these visits I had, especially the UTEP one.
So you go to your 5 visits. You know, kind of, I'm gonna go the basketball route. What was it about UNLV that stuck out ahead of Oregon, Arizona, Georgetown, and UTEP?
Well, remember, I grew up around the program, Steve. I was I was at the first game at the Thomas and Mack because my brother played football there with Randall and Icky and Suge Knight and all those guys. And actually, they came in late, Steve, to recruit me. It was like a last tournament. We were playing in the Las Vegas Invitational, which you probably played in. I don't know if your AAU team came out to Vegas when you were younger, but it was our last game. We was in the semifinals of playing against Alonzo Mourning and his team, and he walked in and he was like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm about to play a game, coach." And then after the game, he offered me after the game, and I basically said, "What took you so long?" And then when him and I talked, and I told him, like, dude, I used to come to your practices, just sneak into your practices when my brother was at football practice. And because I did, 2-a-days, and they were working out and doing their thing, and I used to sneak into their practices when I was young, like 12, 13. So that was basically how it went down. I was waiting for them to offer. I was going to go to Arizona Steve, because I actually had my home visits was all those guys, and Lute Olson came in, and I made sure Tark was the last visit, and he finally came in, but I told him I almost went to Arizona.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some great choices there, man. And so, so I guess it was pretty cool to be 12 and 13 and tagging around with your older brother and not knowing who Suge Knight was going to turn into. And, knowing Randall Cunningham was pretty good, but not knowing what he was going to turn into. Talk about that experience a little bit.
Let me keep it PG with Suge. Suge was not that guy yet.
Okay.
He was a good football player. Could have played in the league, but he got into bodyguarding and doing this whole bodyguard thing, and being around Randall and Icky Woods and the other all the characters was on that team. It was a cool experience because I was into football. I always wanted to be Randall Cunningham. So now I'm shagging balls for Randall, catching the ball for Randall as a young 12, 13-year-old. But it was a cool experience because my mom would send me out there in the summer and stay with my brother and Suge because they were roommates. And Suge was a good dude. Marion was a good dude, and at the time he wasn't who he ended up turning out to be. He was a good dude, but I wouldn't change those experience for anything.
I bet. So you get to UNLV, you're under the legendary Jerry Tarkanian. How was that experience at UNLV to be, playing in what is considered, at that time was one of the best programs in the country? How was that?
It was you had your highs, you had your lows, but the thing is that with our locker room, and Steve, you already know, with locker rooms is interesting because we had kids from LA, Detroit, DC, New York, and it was a melting pot, but it was interesting. I mean, we had kids that, how our situation in LA, you got Bloods and Crips. We had some Bloods and Crips on our team.
Oh, wow.
And it was, occasionally it'll get dicey in practice, but it was a cool experience. Coach was always winning prior to I got there. I mean, I was a big fan of UNLV because UNLV games used to come on in LA every Monday on Channel 9. So I grew up watching them. So playing for Coach Tark and all the players I played with. I played with like 9 NBA players in my career at UNLV. Some characters, but it was fun. We're still friends to this day. We're on a group chat because everybody is not doing anything. Everybody's got time to kill. So we've been on group chats and talking about crazy stories I totally forgot about, Steve. And we'll get into some J.R. Ryder stories, comedy. But it was a cool experience, like I said, and the relationships I have with my guys and with Greg, and now his kid is Cole's doing his thing. I can't believe he's actually walking, playing basketball because he's so young. I've been around him for a while, so I'm happy that all of our guys are doing well and thriving.
So let's try to figure it out. So we got Greg Anthony, Stacey Augmon, Larry Johnson before then, wasn't he?
No, I was there. I redshirted the year they won it. I redshirted, and then the next year. So I was with him for 2 years.
Okay, so you got Greg Anthony, Anderson Hunt, Larry Johnson.
Right.
You mentioned J.R. Ryder.
Stacey Augmon.
That's 5.
Elmore Spencer.
Oh, wow. Forgot about Elmore.
Remember Spence.
Yep.
Dexter Boney.
Yep.
He played with the Suns a little bit, bounced about, Dex.
Yep.
We was in Japan together. I played on the same team with Dexter in Japan.
That's right.
And then George Ackles went 29th to Miami.
Forgot about Big George. Man.
Right.
That era was, you were in the golden era of UNLV basketball, right?
Right.
So did you pay for anything around Las Vegas when you were in school?
Come on, Steve. I ain't Tekashi 6ix9ine. Yeah, the thing is about college sports. It's not even about. It's not the school. It's the people you got to watch around college sports.
Mm.
You know, it's not everybody's like. You know, if I had a nickel for every time somebody asked me that, I'm like, did we get stuff? Yeah, everybody got some. You know, here and
We
there
got
stuff.
stuff too in Illinois. So yeah, I got
Right,
you.
right. My problem is that you know, some of these people, I ain't saying anything. They still alive. This is Vegas. This is old Vegas, Steve. So unless you want to start my car every morning, I'll tell you some more stories, and that's facts.
We're good on that, then. I don't
Right.
want to get you in trouble like that, but
Nah, I'm cool on it. Yeah, go ahead.
let me ask you this though. So I read or heard somewhere that
Mm-hmm.
Greg Anthony had a T-shirt company and he had barbershops while you guys were at UNLV. Is that accurate?
The barbershop is not. That's not.
Okay.
But the sweatsuit T-shirt company is facts. So what Greg did, he went off scholarship because he was making more money than his scholarship money. So he went off scholarship, and he was doing well with his store he had. So then the NCAA came in and Steve was like, "You're making too much money. You got to go back on scholarship." True story. So they forced him to go back on scholarship because he was like, "I'll pay my own way through school."
Right.
And he had no problem because he was doing so well with his company. So they forced him to go. They forced him to go back on scholarship. Probably about December of our run, my sophomore year. They made him go back on scholarship because he was making too much money.
So I don't understand. So they, in order for him to continue to play at UNLV, the NCAA wanted him back on scholarship so that he couldn't make the money from his store. Is that?
Yeah, they forced him to sell. They forced him to sell his company, give up all of his rights to his company. This is a true story. Not too people know this story. So they forced him to give it up. They either say you quit playing basketball or you have to go back on scholarship. And he obviously he decided to get rid of his sell his part of the company and go back on scholarship. True story.
That's a great story, and you know it's an example of the NCAA not utilizing their powers for good. I mean, because an enterprising young man has a business mind that can get business experience and make a profit while he's still playing. I think, to me, instead of forcing him back on scholarship and making him sell his the portion of the company that he had, to me, it would have been like the NCAA needs to go and have someone track what Greg is doing, how he set this up, how he's doing his time management, how he's doing these things, and make him kind of an example of what other I don't like student athletes, I don't like that term, but what other players could have done. Were you guys close enough to Greg at the time to really know the ins and outs of all that, or were you kind of on the periphery and just really focus on what you were trying to do?
Yeah, we were on the outside looking in on this one. I just knew because him and I were kind of close, so I kind of paying attention to it because I was thinking, okay, if he can do it, you know, I'm gonna try to get my side hustle on. But I think it was more to it. All I knew was the meats, the potatoes of it. Basically, I knew because we had a meeting about it. He was like, they're gonna force Greg to go back on scholarship, and he had to get rid of his part of the company, and that's all I basically knew about that. And I know you run in the same circles with Greg. One of these days, ask him that because he'll give you the meat and potatoes on that
one. Oh, I plan to get him on here one of these days. Definitely try to get him on because he's a fascinating story. And the fact that he's blended basketball and business kind of seamlessly. I think he's done as well as any of the former players that I can remember in recent history. So I'm definitely going to get him back. So Evric, give our viewers what it's a sense of playing for UNLV, and as good as you guys were and the type of fan support you got. What was that experience like?
The thing is that, Steve, I'm still experiencing it. Like, Steve, this is probably my 10th show in the last 5 days I've done across the country.
Wow.
And the thing is that occasionally I get fan mail, like with my card in it or old UNLV card we had. Hey, you was one of my favorite players, this and that. And it's still going on because everybody was kind of a UNLV fan back in the day. I mean, if you name it, who was at our games, man, it was on Gucci Road or in our locker room after games, and you know, rappers rocking UNLV stuff at the time. And it's weird 30 years later, Steve, people still talk about that team. And every year, I hate when somebody goes into the tournament undefeated because I know my phone's going to blow up. Like, how's it to play undefeated? You know, it's just like, I hope somebody lose. I hate when people go in and, you know, because we're 34-0 and then we lost to Duke and we could have been the first team to go undefeated since Indiana. And that was the first, that's what they were saying the whole year. So it's a cool experience, especially when you go back to Vegas occasionally. Now I can get free stuff. Johnny, my Vegas is a little bit different, Steve. If you want to come hang out with me in Vegas, it's a little bit different because we get a lot of perks because of our team and our era at that time.
As you should have, because you guys were excellent. Now, what conference were you guys in back then?
We was in the Big West.
Okay, the Big West.
We're in the Big West, yeah.
Big West.
We had Utah State, Long Beach State, Pacific, Cal State Fullerton, San Jose State, Utah State, New Mexico State, which gave us some issues sometimes. New Mexico State with Randy Brown and that crew.
Oh, yeah.
You remember, I think Randy's from Chicago, right?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Randy, good dude. Yeah. But can I just say one thing, though, Steve? I mean,
sure.
I was a big fan of your team.
Oh.
Like, I was a big, you, Nick, Hamilton, and Kendall. Big fan of you guys. And then I think Liberty came in, I think your last year or something like that.
Yeah,
last 2 years.
He's with us in the Flying Illini year as well. So
yeah, that was one of my favorite teams. So I was a big fan too.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a talented group of guys, man, and we're still close, and you know, hope, like you guys are, text chain and all that stuff. So
you got to talk to Kendall. I got to talk to Kendall because I was with the Nets with him, and it was I can't swear, but it was interesting times with Calipari. I don't know if that was Kendall's last or couple years. He was almost. But him and Xavier McDaniel's stories, you got to talk to Kendall about that, about them two. Comedy.
Oh, for real?
Comedy. Oh, my God, those two. Let's just put it this way. X always took all the beer in the back of the plane. He took all the Coors Light. I don't know why he liked Coors Light. It was terrible beer. But you got to ask Kendall about X, man. Pretty fun.
I will. I definitely ask him about that. So, Evric, you have a really good career at UNLV, and you start in the pro ranks. Now, talk us through how that went, because I think you went undrafted, but you got picked up by the Nets. Is that how it went down?
Let me just tell you this, dude. I was supposed to go in the late first, early second. Never happened. So with me, from 93 to 2000, I was in and out of the league. I was with 15 different teams. 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it only came out, I think I need like 27 more games to get my pension, but it came out to almost 3 years. Now, let me give you a couple stories how I got cut a few times, dude.
Okay.
The first time I was with the Bulls. This was Mike's first baseball year. So had a great preseason. And just fast forward to, and I hung out with Scotty a lot. Scotty was pushing for me to be on the team. So Warren LeGary's my agent.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Warren's my agent. So the last day of where your roster has to be in. It's like by midnight, November 1st or something like that. And so 10:30 comes around and Warren calls me like, "Hey, have they said anything yet?" I'm like, "No, I'm in Deerfield, Illinois, in a hotel." So 11 comes by. He calls me again. "Hey, did they call you yet?" I'm like, "No, not yet." So then 11:30 comes by and he called me again. He's like, "Have they called you?" I was like, "No." He's like, "They must be figuring out who they're going to cut and who they're going to keep." He was like, "Don't answer the phone if it rings, the hotel phone." Because back then, you didn't really have cell phone. I don't think he had my cell phone. Warren had my cell phone. This is Krause. And then about 11:45, Steve, my phone rings. And Warren said, "Don't answer it." So I didn't answer it. So I called Warren. I was like, the phone just rang. He's like, did you answer? I was like, you told me not to answer it. So I didn't answer it. About 11:55, Steve, it was a knock on the door. And I was on the phone with Warren. And he was like, dude, you got to answer. Yeah, you got to answer the door. And he was like, open the door. And it was Krause. He's like, dude, we got to let you go. It was out of you and Judge Bushner, but Judge was guaranteed and you wasn't. Okay. And so, yeah. And so he was like, well, you want to stay and this and that. And Steve, I got to go get this money, man. It was a team in France, and it was somebody that was hurt, and they only wanted me for 4 months. And the money was really good. So I told Krause, because Warren always had plan B.
Sure.
And I was on a flight 3 days later to Lyon, France, and playing with Ike Austin.
Oh yeah, big Ike, yeah.
Yeah, playing with Ike in Lyon, France. I was there for 4 or 5 months, and then I think it was Willie Anderson came back off his injury, and that was it. The next year, I was with the Suns. I got a partial guarantee, Steve. And let me tell you how this went. I was playing in Rocky Mountain Review. You played in that in Utah.
Yeah.
And we're playing against KG and Stephon Marbury. This is their rookie year.
Okay.
I had 28 at halftime. And Brian Colangelo walked in and said, your hamstring hurt. I'm like, no, it doesn't. He's like, yes, it does. He said, you need to take this phone call. And I said, Warren, what's going on? He's like, you're done. Your hamstring hurt. I'm like, okay. He's like, but I'm going to call you later and tell you why your hamstring is hurting. So I guess the grapevine is that the Wizards were going to offer me, and Brian didn't want that to happen. So I was done at halftime of a game, Steve, at Salt Lake Community College in the Rocky Mountain Review, and I ended up signing a contract in the bathroom with Brian Colangelo, and it was a partial guarantee. Wow. Now, okay. Chuck was still there. So Barkley was still there. They traded Chuck to Houston for 4 guys. Now for 4 guys. So we have Sam Cassell, Chucky Brown, Mark Bryant, and Robert Horry. So now we have 17 guaranteed contracts. I'm the partial guy, but I'm still there. Remember when Robert threw the towel in Danny Ainge's face?
Yeah, I do remember.
They traded him the next day. I got cut.
That's how it went down?
Pretty much. They cut me right then and there. I talked to Rob. I was like, if he didn't throw that towel in his face, I probably would have been on the team, man. But and then so I went back and forth, messed with you a little bit in Japan, and then I went to Greece and played for Olympiacos and with David Rivers, really good team. We won everything, the Greek Cup and their Euro League there. And the following year, the strike year. Remember the strike year in '99? I was in the CBA, playing in the CBA, and I got a phone call. We're about to get on a plane to go to somewhere, I don't know, lacrosse or somewhere. And I ended up getting signed by the Wizards. And I flew right to DC from wherever we were at. And did this crazy mini camp. I don't know if you remember, Steve. We were doing 2-a-days and sometimes 3-a-days on this mini camps once the lockout was over. And Bernie Bickerstaff was a coach. And so we're playing. We only had like 3 games in the sorry it was taking so long, but it was only 3 games. It was like 3 games in the preseason. We only had 3 games. So we ended up playing Philly. So we took a train to Philly. We played Philly. And in the game, I pump faked someone, and Matt Geiger came over and hit me in the head. It's on ESPN. 8 staples in my head, and I was out for a month and a half.
Golly.
Yeah. 8 staples. And what Warren was telling me, Warren was like, just milk it. It's only a 3-month season. And but I wanted to play, Steve. I mean, I was 30. I don't care how you are. You just want to play. You just don't want to sit there. I got tired of dressing up. I'm a West Coast dude. I don't like dressing up. And I don't like spending money either. Anyway, but I ride it out for about a month, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I started practicing a little bit, I was on IR sitting there, and then they activated, and then they cut me. I just went overseas and finished out my career.
Okay. Now, how many countries did you play in, Evric?
Steve, come on, man.
I'm serious. I mean, I'll keep here. Why you think? I'll keep mine out. Italy, Spain, France, Germany, Venezuela, and Japan.
You got another hand?
Yeah.
See, I probably played in 9 different countries. I played in Italy, Spain, France, Croatia, Japan. Did I say Japan?
Yeah. No, that's right. That's fine.
Okay. I played in Argentina. I played in Uruguay. I did the Philippines thing for the summer. That's easy money. You already know, B.
Yes, sir.
Yes, easy money. And I played 2 years in France, though. So.
Oh, yeah, 2 different stints.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's it. I think that's it. And then I played in the CBA, which is pretty much the G League now.
Right. Where was the best place overseas, and where was the worst place overseas, and why?
The best. I was in Greece. When I was in Greece, Olympiacos. If everybody know, if you don't know, some of your followers probably know, because that's probably one of the richest teams in Europe.
I agree.
And yeah, and they take care of your players, and I replaced Dominique Wilkins. You know, yeah. So either Dominique or was it Willie again? I can't remember, but I think it was Dominique. And the thing is that they were just first class. That guy was a good owner, and we had good teammates. And David Rivers was the guy for me.
Love David.
Always, yeah. Dave was a good point guard, and had fun playing with him. The worst was in Croatia when I played for Zvona Zagreb. And I played for Drazen Petrovic's brother, Alexander Petrovic.
Okay.
And it was a mess. Very good team. It was just the ownership was terrible. We had some situations with the war with Yugoslavia, and I remember we got me and Chucky Atkins was on the team.
Yeah,
he was a point guard.
Yeah.
Chuck was a point guard along with Gordon Gidisic. We had another kid that played in the NBA too, a big kid, young kid, but we couldn't stand Gordon. He was terrible. Steve went past the ball, but we got a knock on the door, and it was our military. It was a USA military. It was like, dude, if something go down, this is where you go. And Chucky called me. Chucky was calling me like, dude, did the military come to your house? I'm like, yeah, I'm talking to him. I'm talking to him right now. It's like, yeah. So that was a situation where we actually had a game, Steve, in Yugoslavia against Belgrade Red Star. I don't know if you're familiar with that team, and we had no fans in there because they hated each other. And yeah, so I'm like, why you schedule a game with the EuroLeague is scheduling a game with a team from Croatia against a team from Yugoslavia? Anyway, we played the game, Steve, with no fans. That's why I've been getting a lot of phone calls, because they want to know, how is it to play with no fans in the stands?
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, it doesn't. After a while, you start thinking, Steve, you start thinking about this bonus I'm about to get, winning on the road. And people don't understand. You get in your contract. You know, I don't know how you worked your contract, Steve, but you get money for winning road games. And I didn't like using my check. I like to live off my bonuses. So, and it's just a regular game. After a while, we actually won the game. We had to drive back, but they busted out the windows in the back of our bus driving back to Croatia. Yeah, pretty cold too.
So the smoke was real between those two teams.
Very, very rare.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so.
You're watching Barrow's Breakdown. Your host, Stephen Barrow. We got my man, Evric Gray, on with us today, sharing some of his experiences. I'm going to transition a little bit, Evric, and how much would you say, percentage-wise, how much NBA compared to college basketball do you watch currently?
It's probably 50-50.
Okay.
But in the NBA, though, it depends on who's playing. I'm a big fan of LeBron. I don't care what team he's on. I just like watching him play. And he gets a bad rap by people. But it's a few people I like watching. I like watching Dame play. I like guys that don't talk, Steve. You know me. I like Steve. I like you because you didn't play. Steve didn't play. Steve, don't mess with Steve. Just play. Don't look at Steve crazy. I like dudes like that. I hate fake tough guys. I don't know. I think me and you almost got into a fight, Steve. I'm not mistaken, but it was all between the lines. We left it between the lines, but we're just competitive. But it's a few people I like watching. And then when it comes to college, I like certain guys that can X and O's, because I'm a coach too, and I still plays, and there's certain people I like to watch. I like watching Juwan coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's like he's already one of my favorite coaches. So, and I was with Juwan in DC. But I like watching certain people play. So I think it's about 50-50. And the other thing too, I like watching girls games, college girls games, because they run their stuff. You know, we break the play. Girls will run it until the cows come on. But I love watching Connecticut. I like watching South Carolina women's basketball. And I'm just a fan of basketball. I'll watch anything. It just depends on who's playing.
So I've been asking people, former players and coaches, about the difference between the NBA game and the college game. To me, it's almost like we're watching two different sports when you watch NBA and college basketball. Right. The NFL is not that different from the college game to the NFL. It's kind of a similar game. Same with baseball and other sports, but basketball, you got 2 20-minute halves compared to 4 quarters. You got a different shot clock. You got different rules. And it's always baffled me why we can't get more, does the college game need to go more pace and space like the NBA? Or does the NBA game need to come back a little bit to where it used to be a little bit more balance between mid-range, long, three-point shooting and plays at the rim? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the difference between college and NBA is spacing. The spacing is huge. I wish college would go to the space. Like I think we should go with a bigger key. My opinion.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we should go with a bigger key, like overseas.
The
might as well
type thing. Okay.
Right. And that little 3-point line, I think they should just move it back to the NBA in college. I just think guys just know how to play in college and in an NBA, it's spacing is just so much better. And some of these guys that's getting hired, like Stackhouse and Juan, and some of these ex-players, that's why I like watching Michigan play, because they spread the floor and creative and you got to go towards. You already know how in Europe, Steve, it's when I coach my guys, if you're 6'8", 6'9", I don't care. You get the rebound, push it. Now, if you want to be a guard, you got to make guard decisions. And I give that freedom with my guys too. But, basketball's training. I mean, before we got stretch fives now, Steve. Let's just keep it real. I mean, we got stretch fives, stretch fours. Everybody is a stretch. Now, I don't even call kids position of players. I just say, hey, this is the position you play in, and this is what we're doing. We're switching everything. And that's the other thing too. NBA dudes, they switch everything. I like to switch everything. I do a lot of guard to guard switching. And that's what a lot of guys are getting to, guard to guard and big to big. You guys are the same size. Switch it. Why fight through a pick that's going to hurt?
Sure.
So So I think the spacing is better in the league, and finding mismatches in the league. Colleges, some guys don't know how the spacing is bad in colleges, Steve. So that's the difference. But if you shorten it, if you get to a 24-second clock in college, they'll force guys to play different. And I want a shot clock in high school, Steve. It's got to get done. Everywhere has to have a shot clock.
I agree.
My opinion. But I think the spacing and pace and coaching too is the difference between NBA and college.
So, Evric, where do you coach now?
I coach at a high school called Corner Canyon High School, and I have my AAU program. This is our 15th year. We have some really good kids, and I'm dealing with portal kids right now that play for me. It's a mess, dude.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, man, I got guys, I'm not happy. I'm like, I told you not to go there. We're not going to even get into that, Steve. But the thing is that this transfer portal was interesting. I wish they should just make it a team out of the transfer portal and name it Transport University.
Yeah, but they'd have 800 players on their team.
Yeah, you can cut it down to the top 10 and have you a nice squad.
Yeah, you would. But, you're right. So what are some of the main messages that you're trying to get out to the young players that you're trying to develop? What are some of the main things that you stress in your program when coaching your players?
I mean, be nice to everybody, Steve. Sign everybody's autograph, because you never know whose autograph you signing for.
Exactly.
You might be making somebody's day, right? Yep. And 20 years later now, and this guy, and he owns a restaurant or a Fortune 5 company, he'll be like, Steve Bardo, you don't remember me, but you were nice to me and you signed my autograph and come on in my restaurant and eat. I always tell my kids to be nice to everybody, get your education, have something so you can fall back on, and work hard. Because I have a lot of good relationships, Steve, I know you do, through this basketball.
Yes.
And I have rich friends, Steve. I got some dudes from the city that will do anything for you, if you know what I mean. So,
yes,
so it's basketball. You get a lot out of it if you treat it right, and if you respect everyone, and be nice to everyone, and don't judge, and because that's what I just like to say, don't judge somebody. And I just tell them, hey, everybody can't score 30. This guy's setting picks for you. Tell them good pass, or tell them good screen, because setting these picks for Steve Bardo and Nick Anderson, that it hurts. But give these guys and make sure they appreciate you, and it goes along, and respect everyone, and it goes a long way, and that's what we try to teach our kids.
Very well said, man. So now you're coaching in Salt Lake. You're in Salt Lake City.
Yes.
Okay.
In a city called Draper, Utah, which is where I live at. It's about 20 minutes outside of downtown Salt Lake.
Okay. Now, are you able to ever expose your players to like the Utah Utes and some of the other programs? Because Evric, I didn't realize this until recently, but basketball in the state of Utah is a big, big deal. They are knowledgeable fans. There are, Weber State, Utah State, Utah, BYU. These are great programs.
Southern Utah.
Yeah, that have had really good success over the last few decades. Are you do your players, do they tend to stay local? Do you have guys leave the area and go different places? What's that look
like? Most of my kids are I got a kid in IUPUI. I got a kid at BYU. I had kids at Utah. I had kids at Utah State. I have a relationship with every coach in the state of Utah.
Wow.
And I have Ben Kostoviak, Larry's youngest kid, on my 17U team. About 6'4", he can shoot a little bit.
Okay.
Good teammate. He's coach's son. So, the vibe here in Utah, they got some good kids. Most of my kids go out of state because I don't have some of my kids look like me, if you know what I mean. So they trying to get out of here sometimes. So, the basketball here is really good, and the dude at Utah State, Steve Bardo, can coach his butt off. I'll be surprised if he's still there next year. Craig Smith can coach, and it's sad because they have a really good team this year, and nobody really going to see them. I heard they were going to be a 6th seed in the tournament this year, Utah State, and Weber State has always been. They've been up and down a little bit over the years, but they had Dame, and then they had some good teams right after Dame. Utah is very young this year, but they had some quality wins this year. They're probably going to get into the NIT. They beat Kentucky this year. They beat Oregon. No, they lost to Oregon, but they had some quality wins. UVU was good with Mark Pope. Then he moved over to BYU.
Oh, Utah Valley State. That's right. Yeah.
They got Mark Matson, your boy, the dancing machine. Now he's coaching at UVU. And then the dude, the ex-UNLV interim coach, Todd Simons at Southern Utah, he's did a good job. They had 17 wins this year. It's the best they've done in 10 years. So the Utah's striving. They got some good kids here. A lot of them don't like leaving the state of Utah. They like staying in Utah.
Okay.
Religion situation. The religion situation, they just like staying in Utah.
Okay. Where do you see the NBA going from here? Because I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, Evric, but for me, the NBA is at a breaking point, because if you look at it, and BJ Armstrong shared this with me on one of these interviews, he said, listen, the best players in the NBA right now are foreign born. Think about it. Porzingis, Doncic, Embiid, Antetokounmpo, Siakam.
The big kid from Denver.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic. So, and then the best NBA players that are U.S. born come from the quote unquote mid-majors. Ja Morant, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Steph Curry, all Davidson.
Klay Thompson went to Washington State.
Klay Thompson. I mean, so, it's interesting. So where I see the NBA going is that it's a crucial point for U.S.-born players right now for the NBA because they've got the NBA Africa started now, and you've got this influx of talent that's not like Drazen Petrovic, who was really, really good, God rest his soul, but he wasn't an elite guy. But now you're talking about the elite guys are foreign-born. Do you see this phenomenon? And if so, how do you think guys in the United States can better prepare themselves for this?
You gotta start young, Steve. I saw this coming a long time ago when we was playing. Like, bigs can shoot it. When I first got to Italy playing with Charles Shackelford, I was watching these 6'9" dudes dribbling around and shooting threes. I was like, okay, basketball is gonna start changing, especially after the Dream Team. I don't care what after the Dream Team, I think Europe started catching up. And all these camps we do overseas, I'm pretty sure you've probably been on the NBA, Europe, whatever, doing camps over there. They starting to catch up. These dudes starting to catch up. I think it's a good thing, though, Steve. It's just going to force kids to get their skills. You just can't dunk every time. That's why I hate looking at YouTube. I'm like, show somebody playing defense and coming over and taking a charge.
Yeah.
All you see is dudes talking mess, playing the guitar, not, just shooting the ball. I'm like, they don't even win the game all the time. You just watch these highlights all the time. So our thing is that we need to get our kids skilled in the beginning and not just dunk everything and working on footwork and the right pivot and playing the right way, moving around the ball. So that's the thing is that with the way basketball is going now, that's why these guys in Europe, and they want to play together. They don't care if they win or lose. They just want to play together and win. And some of our kids are selfish, and that's what it is a little bit with this new generation is how many likes I get on YouTube and social media and Twitter. But if we don't figure it out, we ain't gonna win a gold champ because these dudes are getting old. KD and LeBron, these dudes are getting older, and these younger kids are. Because Spain is gonna always be good.
Yep.
Yugoslavia, the former, that former Yugoslavia, that all Croatia, all those guys are really good.
Yeah.
And
France.
We don't pay it to France. Yeah, and especially Canada.
Yeah.
So I think we need to start developing our kids and stop just rolling the ball out for our elite kids and teach them how to play the right way. Some of these dudes with these EYBL kids, they just roll the ball out. They don't teach them how to play. All they care about is dunking the ball and what kind of likes you get. So I think the other thing too, what you said is like the mid-major kid, who cares? If you can play, Steve, they're going to find you.
That's true. That's exactly right.
And I have that issue with some of my kids. It's like, you worry about what it looked like. Go play. I will help you. If you're trying to play at the next level, I will help you. But you got to put up some numbers. You can't be averaging 4 points and thinking you're going to try to play in the league. It doesn't work that way.
That's right.
So if you can play, they'll find you.
All right. So give me this J.R. Ryder story that you were telling me about. Let's get into that a little bit.
So we didn't talk about Massimino. Remember, I played 1 year with Raleigh Massimino my senior year.
Yep.
And him and J.R. See, Raleigh brought his East Coast stuff to the West, and it just was interesting. So the first day he got the job, he's like, Evric, what do I have to do to be successful here? I'm like, don't get into it with the media here. You're the only show in town. So we didn't have hockey. We didn't have NFL back then. It was just running Rebel basketball.
Right.
So basically the story was, I forgot about the story. So Jay Wright, we're all in a group chat. So me, JR, we all in a group chat because we don't have anything else to do right now because we're out of school and I can work from home. So Jay told the story. We were playing at Utah State, and we had played a Thursday night, Steve, on the road. So then instead of coming back to Vegas, Massimino was like, well, let's just go up to Logan and do some we'll just stay there for the whole time. So Massimino had you can't have facial hair. That was his deal. Yeah. So JR was a little rough going into Wednesday. We flew out Wednesday. He was looking a little rough. JR, he played the game. We won, and we flew to Logan, Utah. And, now we like 3 days in, and it's starting to show.
Right.
And so we're 30 minutes before the game start, and Mass come to me and is like, JR's not playing. I'm like, why? He's all right. He's like, he didn't shave. I'm like, come on, coach. Really? He's like, you need to tell him to slay. I'm like, you tell him to shave. He's a grown man. You tell him. So now 20 minutes before the game, Jay Wright comes to me and is like, dude, you got to talk to Jay. He got to shave. I'm like, where the hell is he going to shave right now? Where's he going to shave at?
Right.
So Deion Thomas, our point guard, comes over and he goes, I got my clippers on the bus. So now it's 15 minutes before the game starts. So JR is now warming up. He's in the locker room. Mind you, he was going for Larry Johnson's record for most consecutive 30-point games. I think it was like 4 or 5.
Wow.
And so about 12 minutes to go, I see Jay Wright run up this tunnel. And I said, D, where's he going? He's like, oh, he's going to get my clippers. I was like, now it's like 8 minutes ago. We about to do we're still doing layups. And so Mass didn't want him to play because he was looking a little scruff. So 7 minutes before the game, Deion runs up the tunnel and shaves him. And he ended up playing, and he only had 29 points, but he was so mad. After that, we because we started off 14-1. We were like 10th in the country with me playing the center and JR playing the 4. And after that, it went left. It went left with their relationship. And then after the game, I was like, man, why are we doing this? Like, why are we arguing over that? And JR and Mass wasn't going to play him because he was looking a little rough. And literally we went down. We lost a couple games, and JR and Massimino's relationship went left.
JR,
I totally forgot him.
JR Ryder, man, people don't remember. Was he the best athlete at that time? I mean, take Jordan out of it.
He's better than Jordan.
In terms of athleticism?
Yeah, he was Steve. I mean, like I played with him for 2 years, and I used to sit there and watch this dude play, and I'm like, and I thought Stacey Augmon was athletic, and Stacey is. He's just 6'8", 6'9". JR's 6'5", and if he wanted to play tight end, he would have been a great tight end. But he moved without the ball, and Larry was super athletic too, but he wasn't on JR's level when it came to athleticism and just things I used to see him. I see him. He dropped 44 straight games at one point that year, and then he had like a 4-game stretch where he had 30 or more. And I didn't care. See, I just wanted him to get off because these scouts just can't watch him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way I looked at it. I was playing chess a little bit. I'm like, all right, get off. And we have 20 scouts there, and I parlayed that into get invited to Chicago and different camps and stuff that I planned with JR.
Oh, that's what's up, man. So, Coach, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Evric Gray 23, and on Facebook you can just find me on with Evric Gray, and I really don't do that much social media. Instagram, same thing, at Evric Gray 23. So, and I have a Salt Lake Rebels one, all one word, on Twitter.
Salt Lake Rebels on Twitter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate Evric Gray joined us today. That'll do it for this edition of Bartle's Breakdown. Make sure you tune in to the page because we're doing something every day. We're delving into the world of basketball and coming up with wonderful guests and people like Evric Gray to come and share his experiences with all of you all. So make sure you come back to the page, check us out, and that'll do it for the day's version. So until next time, peace.
See you.